Can you guys hear me?
There we go.
Okay.
Okay, can everyone hear us now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Could you hear us before, or we didn't
No,
have?
I couldn't. No.
Boy, we have to start over.
Okay.
So we introduced the whole meeting. Welcome to UNC Planning and Zoning Committee for May 17, 2023. I'm John Arnold. I am the co-chair, and we're here in the South East House with
Laura Myers, co-chair. And here I am.
Okay, and welcome. So I'm going to share the screen with the agenda for this evening. So the first agenda that we've had that hasn't had the COVID disclaimer, so we're going to jump right in. Can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Great. So welcome to the meeting. The first thing we do is review the UNC standing rules for committee stakeholder voting. Anyone can attend this meeting, but only stakeholders can vote. Sorry, admitting people as we go. Only stakeholders can vote. So we go around the table, introduce ourselves, state our stakeholder status and our intent to vote or not. So I'm John Arnold. I live in Jefferson Park. I am on the UNC governing board. I've been on board for 16 years. I get to repeat that. And I am a stakeholder and I intend to vote.
Yes, and I'm Laura Myers. I am on the UNNC governing board for same amount of time as John. I live in Angeles Vista. And yes, I intend to vote.
Hi, everyone. I'm Teresa Masonette. I represent the West Adams Avenues and I'm a stakeholder and plan to vote.
Great. Steve?
Yes, Steve Wallace, Harvard Heights, and former UNNC member.
Michael?
UNNC governing board member for the Avenues along with Teresa. I intend to vote and I am a stakeholder.
Okay. Sorry, 1 second. We're turning you down. Everyone's yelling. Steve. Okay. And Owen.
Is he still here?
Is Owen still here?
Hi, Harvard Heights resident.
Welcome.
Okay. And Donna?
Hi, Donna Jones, West Adams Avenues. I am a stakeholder and I intend to vote.
I'm going to turn on just a little bit. So on to item number 2, general public comments. Anyone has a public comment, please raise your virtual hand and you call on, or your real hand if you're in the room. Anyone have any public comments for anything that's not agendized? Donna.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the Angeles Rosedale Cemetery and the concerns I have for the upkeep as well as the damage being done by the numerous mobile homes parked along Washington next to it. I have reached out to everyone, including Olympic Division, the mayor's office. So I'm just concerned about it. There's been a great deal of damage. the wall is crumbling next to the encampment, as well as there are breaches of the wall there going into the cemetery. So I'm working on that, just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention. Thank you.
Thanks, Don. Anyone else with a public comment of anything not agendized? Seeing none, we're going to go into item number 3, case number PAR 2023-2183, 225 West Venice Boulevard. I don't even know what an AHRF.
Right, but if you want to share the screen, I'll
Oh,
share the
sure,
screen.
sure. All right, hold on. Let me just. So, this is a case that came before us. There's a couple items in the packet regarding this proposed project. There's a lot of information in the packet, so I think Laura might have more information.
Well, I don't have a lot.
So it was a rendering, kind of a bird's eye view.
Right. So, well, this is what I believe. I believe that the unusual new set of letters is telling us that because this is a 100% affordable housing project, it has been exempted from what would have perhaps been other entitlements, so that they have to file these projects, but may not have to do much more. But I think this is within, I know this is within the Harvard Heights HPOZ. So I'm not sure, the thing question mark is going to come up on the next item. I'm not sure what it is about the mayor's emergency orders that relates to affordable housing that may allow these to bypass overlay zones.
I don't think they do. They
Right.
might get incentives that the overlay zone doesn't like, but the design review is still there, especially if it's for the objective criteria. So Steve, you might not want to know about this, but it's my understanding that, they may get the height that they want, and it may not fit some of the subjective standards that are in the HPOZ preservation plan, but they are still subjected to design reviews. But what do you guys know anything? What's the scuttlebutt in Harvard Heights, Steve, if you know anything to call you out?
Yeah, has it been agendaed at HPOZ?
The only thing I know about this is that what I can recall is that they just get 4 stories if it's affordable housing, and they do not have to provide a lot of parking. If they wanted to go 5 stories for market rate, then they would have had to provide quite a bit of parking. As far as design review, it is my understanding that it's still design review. I thought that the only thing that was exempt from design review were ADUs, not new construction, multi-unit housing.
Right, so this is 5 stories.
And just FYI, everybody, parking is no longer required for any project in most of the UNNC zone. We had a meeting about 6 months ago where we showed that map, and there were only small slivers down through the middle of like Jefferson Park and up towards Washington that do still have a parking requirement, but this area would not have a parking requirement.
Okay.
So no parking is required.
So these are the other views. And there's 2 pages. Trying to get to the second page.
Yeah, but I agree with you, Steve. I think it's not exempt from design review. There's state law would protect its height requirement. So if the design isn't, it's going to be about, I don't know how to say this, design features of the building, whether it's materials, fenestration, massing, things like that, but it's not about diminishment. We won't be able to diminish. And depending on the developer, how, I don't know what the word I use, aggressive they want to be with, because they can, if to fit density, they can ask for any waivers, but because there's no project information here, we don't know what they're asking, what the adjacencies are, what the zone adjacencies are, which might trigger transitional height. You know, whether they're using, I assume they're using density bonus and not TOC, but all that's opaque right now because we can't see
Right.
anything, because no information is here.
Right, so it's Dana's company, once again, that's the land use rep. So I did not reach out since they're coming next meeting for another item, so if we wanted to get more information.
Do we know, I mean, we don't know anything, this is really early, except that it looks like it's, you know,
Well,
coming
here,
along.
I just figured out this computer, so I'm going back to this. It's a 43 unit apartment building with 100% of the units except the managers set aside for affordable
So
household.
we could have done our own research and looked up the zone and looked up the, but we don't know what they're asking.
Well,
or whether
it's C2, it's C2 or C1+5.
what's the adjacency? Is it adjacent to R1 or R3 or?
It's on its
45?
rear, Steve, am I correct? Right behind it would be Cambridge. So it'd be the R2 zone.
Yes, that is correct. And by the way, Laura, on my screen, I can only see your file view. I don't see any renderings. No renderings are showing up on my screen here.
Stop sharing, share. So there's only, in the packet, there's only 2 renderings. There's no project information. So we don't know, and we don't even know if they are required to come to us. I think there may or may not be, depending on the incentives being asked and whether if it's going to City Planning Commission. But I do believe it has to go to HPOC. So I think the HPOC is more limited in what they can and can't ask for. Versus other projects that we've been used to.
Okay, so can you see the renderings now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and okay, so the problem is with all of these is that they're coming very fast and furious, but they're not complete the way that applications used to be complete on these affordable housing. So we can't see everything as quickly, but they're also moving more quickly. So I thought we should just bring it to everyone's attention. And again, my bigger concern is how does the expediting that's inherent in the mayor's emergency orders, how does that intersect overlay zones? This is rhetorical because I do not know the answer. So I wanted to bring it tonight.
I think it doesn't erase everything, but we don't have a lot of information about what's being requested. I do think there's a time limit to how planning can act or not. And did we find these drawings themselves, where they sent to us by the app?
We found these drawings ourselves, but I didn't see a whole application. I saw the package of render, not anything else. And on the other one, next item. Guys, we're on Zoom. We're live. On the next item, there's not even a rendering.
Yeah.
So
We're kind of don't know. But I think to my mind, we will want to get as much input as we can. State law and now city directives are very strong. And so I think it's about choosing where we can be most effective. I think HPOZ is one of those places to get the building to be attractive in a way that the power is there to do that. And I think it's just picking our battles, because some battles cannot be won. For example, parking battle will not be won because of AB 2097. That's a state law. No parking is required. You can ask about it, but there's no objection we can do that will be sustained or will carry any water. So I think it's about listening, getting the information, and then negotiating where we can and seeing what we can do to get it to be as best as we can be, get it to be as best as it can be.
okay, so Steve has his hand up.
Oh, Steve. Sorry.
Final designation.
Yeah, thanks. I guess I'd almost sacrifice design review if they weren't 100% affordable. And the reason I say that is when they're 100% affordable, generally the budgets, the maintenance and management budgets are nothing. And they're just creating a slum today that we're going to have to look at for 40 years. And at least with some market rate units, or maybe a majority market rate, at least that provides an operating budget, which they won't have otherwise. And so that's what scares me. The parking is one thing, the design review is another, but the maintenance of that property from here on out for the next 40 years is what scares the hell out of me. So that's just my.
So your analysis is anecdotal because we don't know anything. If this is an affordable housing provider, nonprofit with state funding, city funding, and et cetera, they will have more maintenance budget. They will have more obligations. However, I'm going to go back to the initial statement. We don't know because you can have private, non-affordable housing, non-providers who are going into the city at stating and signing covenants that it is affordable housing, and it gives them more. And so I think you're jumping to conclusions, in all due respect. And I think that is, we have to get more information and then talk to the person, because any building, doesn't matter what it is, single family home is subject to maintenance at the whim of the owner. So I think that's my opinion on that. Donna.
If it's all affordable, are we talking about Section 8 type of?
No, Section 8, it depends on where they've gotten their funds from. If it's just a private developer able to build it at rents that fit into the housing department's AMI of average median income, if they can make it work on those rents, then they just charge those rents, people pay it, and that's it. If it's an affordable housing provider, they can either do Section 8, which is non-project based, or they can get their own project-based vouchers, is what they're called, that apply to that building. So Section 8 is a type of subsidy that isn't specific to a project. There could be subsidies that are specific to the project. It could be either or neither.
I know with my experience with Section 8, they're very particular with upkeep and maintenance. So
Yeah, they'll all be subject to housing department, reviews and inspections. Any other questions? Steve, your hand's still up? Is that from? Yeah, thanks. So anyway, so we're a little bit short of discussion points because we know so little. And I'm really eager to see, this is our first one under Mayor's emergency directive, to see how fast it goes, to see how much HPOZ can. I'm really eager to see how are they going to be forced to do it in one meeting or two meetings? Maybe, I'm not sure. So this is all new, and Laura and I will track it as best we can, and of course give the opportunity for the neighborhood to contribute to the project design and impact on the community as much as we can. But it's an unknown. I just don't know.
Right. Well, the next one's even
More
less
opaque?
known, more opaque. Well, so there's nothing to share. So I'm just going to bring back up the agenda, I guess.
2225.
Oh, where's our meeting? I've lost it. Uh-oh.
Oh, right.
Nope. Streets, I've lost the
Yeah,
meeting.
good. Where's Zoom?
It's on the bottom.
There it is. Sorry.
And your maximize thing, Laura?
Maximize.
There you go.
Okay. So I'm just going to bring up the agenda again. So now that I can. Sort of. Give me a moment. So the next one is another case number PAR, which I think means, pause for a second. We don't know it. I don't know what PAR means, but the AHRF ED1, that's another one of these 100% affordable. But I have the same or worse concern on this one. It's 1614 South Gramercy Place. So now we're in a residential zone, RD2 or RD 1.5 dash CPIO, Angeles Vista Character Residential Overlay Zone or Overlay District. What's on the lot right now is a 1908 house designed and built by Naldo Stokes. And the last 40 plus years, the resident was Rose Gales, who's a very well-known she passed away not too long ago, jazz musician. And this location was the site of weekly jazz gatherings, breakfasts. So there's a cultural heritage component, but it's also a 40-foot setback with a 1908 house. And what's being proposed is a big unknown. And part of the reason it's really unknown is when I contacted the person who's the representative, he was just simply belligerent and said that everyone in UNNC is a NIMBY. And no, he wasn't gonna share the plans with us. Thank you. So I don't know. I do know that the builder is an individual, not one of the affordable housing organizations. So my question would again be, are they allowed to just avoid, we work very hard to get these overlay zones throughout South LA. And is the mayor's order going to mean that none of the character residential overlays have any meaning at all? Because it's a different animal than the HPOZ. So I'm expressing my concern, and I think we should be writing a letter. It would need to be approved by the board, I think, but writing a letter to the planning department, to Council District 10, asking this very question. What are these new kinds of projects going to be exempt from any of the overlay zone rules? And also 22 units is far beyond the number that would have been allowed under the zoning.
So my feeling is the mayor isn't strong enough to wave a wand and say everything goes out the window. State law is that strong.
Right.
So.
And what is AB 2345?
AB 2345 is an arm of density bonus, and it just adds more of a broader reach to density bonus. Usually what AB 2345 is used for is a 3-foot height increase. We have a project in Santa Monica that used it. And I think AB 2345 also allows the planning department to have unlimited waivers as well. This allows them, I think, a planning department to do that.
So the base zoning is 6 units on this side, and they're planning to do 22, and Michael has his hand up.
Yes, I have a question, guys. In the old days, pre-pandemic or pre this housing emergency, would the owner of the house been free to sell to a developer and let them do this? There was something stopping them. There was a mechanism from stopping them.
The zoning would only allow 6 units, 5 or 6 units.
Mhm.
And again, we're blind. I don't know. And no matter what law you have, to get from 6 to 22, that's an increase of 200 and something %.
Exactly.
And there's no state law, no density bonus that allows that. It's the density bonus is a standard 1.35. Oh, take it back. Within.
Oh, yes.
Yes, hold on. When you're 2, 3, 4, 5, when you're in a half mile of any transit,
Mhm.
you can go unlimited density for 100% affordable housing, but then you're only allowed 4 waivers. So, and then
4 waivers is a lot of waivers.
it is a lot. I'm not making the rules. I'm just saying
Yeah,
what Sacramento says.
but it's also waivers from what? So I'm back on the CPAO
Yes.
question,
So there's only 4 of them.
right?
So you can't, so they have to meet, it's this in the setback. I don't know if you can go for 0 setback. I think you can go for the
We have a
typical-
building line.
So you can go for a typical 20% decrease, but even this rules around that too. So there's no carte blanche like we saw at 1848 South Gramercy, that they just want carte blanche. But they also were they had a zone that allowed for 33 units. This only allows 6. they can go for unlimited density, but they can't go for unlimited volume. You can't cross unlimited waivers, unlimited density, and build a 1,000,000-story skyscraper with 1,000,000 units in it and ask for exemptions from everything under the sun. That's the break on that.
So
Okay.
next question is, are there or is there any department that can stop this in itself? In other words, if we don't get a signature on the CPIO, does that stop it from moving forward? What's our road to stop this? Do we have a strategy for that?
I don't think there's any political will to stop. I think even this, and Michael, I'll just be frank, same as comment as last time. If our agenda is to stop, we will hit a wall. We will actually, we'll be undermining any power, any say we have. I think my opinion is our goal should be to affect a better outcome.
Right.
Okay.
So, and I would suggest that to be really successful at that better outcome, we hone a consistent focus, vision to the things that we believe the state and local laws do allow, such as the CPIO. We hone a vision and we try to converse, bringing a collective solution that respects those elements and still allows as much as they can or be allowed. Because if we're not consistent, we won't be successful either.
So could we draft a letter that would be approved by the board on June 1? To point out that we have consistently worked to have the character historic homes retained and construction of new units in the rear. Because remember, at 1808 St. Andrews, they are also building 22 units, but they're retaining the house. They're connecting it all together, and the house will be on the inside will be units, not so. But can we draft that letter and say that we are asking questions, but also stating our position, and we write it to both the council office and the CPIO unit and the director of planning,
And copy it to the mayor's office.
well, we're going to copy it to the mayor's office.
I would also suggest that to counter the knee-jerk NIMBY argument, that we actually attach a document that lists all of the dozens of projects that are housing and partially affordable, extremely affordable, that we have worked and successfully expedited through our ability to support. And so I think we should have that kind of as a dashboard that we can attach to each of our letters, so it shows that UNNC's got a very reputable track record of working for adding housing at needed levels, and adding in a way that can be most compatible with our historic neighborhoods and our CPIOs and our community. And we just keep on that focus.
Another comment to that, Chris. Is it possible that we can link the salvaging of the existing historic property to further development?
Yeah, yes.
We can ask for it. So the things that are going to fall on deaf ears, anything that's contrary to state law, and I think anything that diminishes density.
But are you saying that the problem is we do have a character residential overlay, and its purpose is to protect the actual character of the neighborhood, and the character is defined by the shape, by the actual, in this case, 1908 building, and the setback.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the purpose of having? They just adopted the 11th one. They just initiated another one. And all of South LA, where all of these character residential overlays are, 100% of the land is within, 500 feet or the mile or whatever it is, half mile to transit. So, we understand the conflict, but these were adopted before. These are not newly adopted. The one that's recently initiated will be newly adopted, but ours is not. It's been in effect
So state
almost 5 years.
state law will override it. I'm just playing devil's advocate. State law will override it. And it's a brave new world. And the fact that we don't have any information makes me think
Well,
that they aren't considering that there's going to be a firestorm of something. When it starts getting built.
The belligerent response
Yeah.
to
So I-
my phone call.
So I don't.
But the council office could step in as well in some sense. I mean, again, I would like to vote that we're gonna do this letter and have it prepared and have it on the agenda for June 1. Because I don't think we can just randomly start writing letters.
Are you making a motion to do this letter?
Yes.
I second that motion.
Yeah, I think, it's going to be a hard letter to craft because, again, I don't want to.
I don't think it's that hard, John. I mean, I think from a UNNC perspective, we may not win. But from a UNNC perspective, we worked for a decade to get this overlay in place.
Yeah.
And the community had worked longer than that because it had wanted an HVOZ. So, you know, it's just left out of the HVOZ initiatives from the late 1990s. So I think UNNC supported this every step of the way and had multiple meetings with planning staff, helped devise it. So I think we move forward on that and just say, how do we intersect? Because the character of community, well, and the other, I was saying, and the purpose of having the mixed use zoning on the commercial corridors was to conserve the character of neighborhoods and move the density onto the corridors, not into the middle of the blocks. This is the middle of a block.
One of the things, just for background data, when you look at the city as a whole, look at density. Aren't we one of the more dense residential geographies?
Well, yes, but
And we should always bring that up, that we're not, that we have historically been a high density residential area. And so it's not that we are opposed to housing, but we do want to solve our future housing in a way that not only supports future residents, but also conserves the character overlays that the city supported and that the community has worked for decades for.
And also, this is the zoning that was adopted. Not 80, whatever, but the zoning was very specific. They literally did the mathematics and changed Washington into a corridor that would allow, no, not higher, that would allow residential, because it was residential was forbidden on Washington Boulevard. And they did the map and transferred the density to Washington, not to Venice, to Washington Boulevard. So we were very engaged in all of that. And it feels to me that when the city adopts zoning plans, and when it also says that the new density is going to be in high opportunity areas on the west side and elsewhere, that the words they say out loud constitute promises. So this one kind of violates that promise. We may not get anywhere, but
I think
that should
a
be
letter
what we
should be
should write.
I say.
And I want to talk, my fear is that based on the belligerent phone call, because the whole statement, UNC is on that, but NIMBYs. You know that? That there's a rush or a directive to planning to interpret things a certain way, and because we don't have any information, that there's going to be more than even the law is allowing.
Yep.
That there's going to be, that they're going to say, what would be to get us the most volume, taking this building line away, the 33 feet of height, whatever it is going to. So that was I just want, because we're blind, we have no idea what the
Right.
mechanisms are.
But can we vote on the motion for the
Sure,
mail
yeah.
letter? 'Cause, you know,
Absolutely, I'm just.
and we can definitely put in the letter that we have not seen the plans, unless by June 1 we have seen the plans.
Okay.
But as of,
And request to see the plans were
which is what I,
reviewed, not.
so, okay,
Okay, who wants to make the motion?
I did make the motion.
And I seconded
Chris
it.
seconded the motion.
Okay,
And the motion is to write a letter that is addressed to a combination of council district and planning, CPIO unit and the director of planning. Copy to the mayor. There may be other people to copy, but addressing the issues of the intersection of our need for affordable housing with the community-based effort to have the CPIO and, you know, all of the zoning things. So all the things we just discussed
Yeah.
that have been recorded on the YouTube. And I unfortunately, I didn't record. We're not running a recording other than the YouTube on this.
to intersect.
Well, it's just the intersection of, you know, the broad need for affordable housing with the community's actual zoning that we work so hard on, but there, we discuss more things.
I just want to get something that we can get the intent
Right.
clear and then we can. Okay, so we have a motion table by Laura, seconded by Chris.
And
Any other comments or questions? Okay. All those in favor, anyone
we
who
have
is,
new people.
yes, I know, I'm just gonna address that. Anyone who is intending to vote, please know that you must be a stakeholder. A couple of people have joined after our declaration statements. So that said, if you're not a stakeholder, please do not vote.
And how are we voting? Are we raising?
I think, hands in the room and then hands, virtual hands on screen. So all those in favor of writing a letter to the various departments, please raise your hand. 1, 2.
So our participants may vote if you live, work, worship, whatever, in UNNC.
So we have 1, 2, we have 5 in this room. 5 in this room, 2 on, and 2 others, a few others aren't voting. Okay, so we have 7. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so the vote is, was 7-0 passes. Yeah, let's go back to the agenda. Thanks for. Yeah, it's a brave new world. I don't know what's going to come of it.
Okay, so the next item is revisions to the Mills Act, and John, you did remind me that I probably should be recused since I have a Mills Act contract. So this is and so what the agenda item is an update, which I probably can give and then walk out of the room. A discussion of next steps and possibly a community impact statement. And we have submitted in the past a letter and resolution, but that was when this was just to city planning. It's now council file.
So we talked about this, I'm gonna say 3 or 4 times in this meeting. We did write a letter addressing all of our concerns that the committee was concerns. It was approved by governing board, it was sent. And so we still have all that.
Yeah.
I don't know as the guts that the content of it changed, that
Well,
we might change what our position is.
It's hard to tell. So what's happened is our letter was written last July. So a lot of things happened after last July. So UNNC wrote a letter, which we can share in a minute, with a position that we'll share in a minute. And then a lot of other entities wrote letters. The deadline for writing letters was September 15th, so the time went on. In January, there was a session scheduled at the Cultural Heritage Commission. And the director had issued a, well, it looked like a director's report, but it wasn't a recommendation report with capital R's. But it was a memo with an update. And in that memo, the director actually wrote that they had read everybody's comments and they understood what was being complained about. That the basic core economics that was described in the underlying consultant's report, actual report, was wrong, because the underlying report basically indicated that the city was losing money by having the Mills Act property owners get discounts. But in fact, over time, the valuation of property, of residential and all property in LA County has risen, billions and billions of dollars. So in fact, the city has a much larger share of income from property taxes than it did when the Mills Act program started. So everything has risen, not fallen. So they aren't losing money on the discounts. And that they had, one of their recommendations was that to cancel older Mills Act contracts. But the vast majority of the older Mills Act contracts are in South LA, Council District 10 and Council District 8, which is an area they were targeting for increasing the program. And B, most of those contracts, there's no tax savings anymore, because the valuation on their properties are lower than the calculation from that. To be countered by the idea that if you sell your house, the person buying it then would get a significant discount. But that's conjecture, because nobody knows when someone's going to sell a house, or if the buyer wants to stay in the program. So the director wrote a memo and did a presentation that basically said, yeah, we're not going to do this. We're not going to cancel the project. We're, contracts. We're going to reevaluate this evaluation. But we still like the idea of targeting communities that face barriers to opportunities. So they understood that it didn't make sense to cancel contracts in communities that face barriers to opportunities. And then there was a whole lot of testimony. It was like a public hearing, even though there was no action item. And at the end, everybody walked away thinking, oh, good, they're going to rethink this. And UNNC and others also had said, of course, City Council should fund 2 additional staffing, because they are the administration is woefully underfunded and understaffed. And if you're going to expand the program, you need to have more people. And that also, we wanted the program expanded, and that the city should also look at other opportunities for historic preservation incentives. This is the only program. So that's the same position. UNNC had that very same position when we made a comment on the housing element, that we should have more than just the Mills Act as a preservation incentive. So that was January. Everybody was positive. And then all of a sudden, in late March, there's a motion that's what's up on the screen now. Instead of moving forward to the commission for an action, went to City Council and asked them to do this motion. And the issue with the motion becomes that it reverts back to the initial report by consultants Chattel Incorporated and AECOM, which is the thing that was wrong in the first place. And so what it does say is that they should base a new program on that report plus public input, but they didn't kind of dump the report. So this motion was done at council, like I said, very late March. It went to Plum yesterday. And although the Plum committee didn't even start till 3:45, and I was there and I never heard them address it. I see today that they passed it. So I think what they did is they were so late, I think they took some of the items on consent. So that means this is moving forward back to the planning department to prepare a report, go back to the Cultural Heritage Commission to act, and then go to City Council. So in order for us to do a community impact statement, we never converted our thing to words, community impact statement. And I think, that's probably a simple thing to do, because it turns out that there's nothing new. So from here, John, if you want to, I think at this point is when I get recused. So I'm going to walk
A
to.
quick question, is there any written record of the statement by the planning department
Mhm.
that the report was flawed and they were?
They never said the report was flawed. They
Or-
said, we understand what you wrote.
Okay.
But they cited some of the economics figures.
What does the political, except for a really limited amount of tax dollars, what's the political drive to keep this going and alive and bring it up and?
Because they need staffing, and the city council is refusing to give them staffing. So, in other words, we may want to flip what we say to say, focus on the staffing, don't focus on changing the program, focus on giving them what they need to staff it. But now I'm past.
Yep.
So John, if you want to scroll, can you, from where you are, scroll through your letter?
Again, since they brought up this economic sort of loss supposedly on the program from tax bases, I think it is important to point out the huge economic bonus that comes to the city because of HPOZs and their frequent
but
use
what
for
about-
filming.
A lot of letters wrote that.
Okay, so we should put something about the economic
May have,
bonus
I don't remember.
in
I'm trying to
the,
walk off
Yeah.
this because
I'm not talking between the meeting, for the community impact statement, because it was sort of couched as a financial issue. We should make sure we always highlight how much the city gains in film revenue, and which is huge. As one day commercial puts $350,000 back into the city coffers and community. And so those historic facades do a great deal of benefit back to the city, not loss. But anyway, and I also have a Mills Act, so should I recuse myself? Okay. You have to go. You have to leave.
Oh, I'm not listening.
You have to recuse yourself.
I'm recused. You can't snarl at us in the faces and.
You have-
Oh, I can't actually,
Discussion, yeah, I know both.
I can't well.
Oh.
So anyone else who has a Mills Act, use your discretion about whether to recuse or not. So this letter, which was from last year, honestly, I honestly can't remember all the points that were in it. So I don't know if we should just scroll through, read a comment from now recused Chris about how Mills Act may incentivize economic growth because of the quality of neighborhoods, whatever, filming, whatever it is that generates income and just reinvestment in our neighborhoods. Many of the old contracts are lower income property owners, moderate and lower. Program expanded. We couldn't see how, based on the housing element, that equity is a goal. We didn't know how this furthered that. Reading, excuse me. Yeah, which is more a request to expand it. Oh, here we go. Increase the number of Mills Act. We were concerned that there was no public hearings, but it sounds like they are maybe. It was an expansion that the city doesn't have. Without the Mills Act, the city doesn't have any incentive program as historic zones, but no incentive to be part of them or to help make them work. This is a plea to make staff more efficient and how they assess and what they do and if there's a limited amount of staff time, make it more efficient. Part of that was making the inspections less onerous, because apparently now that they are, I don't have a Mills Act, but apparently they are sometimes hostile and difficult. Yeah, so so this was like a note that the Mills Act, only 25% of the taxes that the Mills Act doesn't generate is from single family houses. So canceling those contracts is really just putting pennies in the bucket, but affecting a lot of homeowners in the UNNC area. It's about giving us more time to think of it or to consider it. They should include Mills Act property owners in their decision making, so they can hear from boots on the ground about how the Mills Act affects the maintenance of their properties. And we have a lot of talking points. It's about, things that we disagreed with, and how many HPOZs with contracts we have. And as Laura said, we put the lion's share. So I don't, she also mentioned CD8, but Marquise Aristotle was the host of this motion. So he appears that he doesn't feel any political pressure to maintain them in CD8. So these are all our talking points. Anyway, so we have some options. We can update this to remove some of the time sensitive things, like we haven't had time to consider it, etc. We might just update some of that, but we can adopt this, the intent of these things, with updates to make it more timely to today. Might be one thing we can do. And we could add arguments to it. Does anyone have any input on this? It's not my area of expertise.
Yeah.
All the people with expertise have their recused themselves.
But I agree with you, John, that the letter, we should probably update the letter to make it more timely and move forward with a submission.
So I wish, I don't want to start updating and say, oh, we should have or could have added this and this. So I guess we can still do that at governing board, because this is only recommendation. So I'm going to make a motion that we update this letter with its points, with the whole thing, just clean it up so it's not embarrassing with things relevant to last year. And then anyone who has any other things to add, bring them to the governing board and we can add them then. But I think the general motion is to update this letter, bring it to governing board.
I second.
Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, that's all. Take a vote. All those in favor of the motion to update the letter and send it to all the entities involved, which would be further the mayor's office and more people than we originally sent it to, please raise your hand. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of 5 people in the room. So we got unanimous. We don't have to take any more. Great. That's we got on that one. So I will take that. I have that original letter. It won't take me long, just to update that and bring it to government. Okay, finally, our last item on the agenda, let me just make sure that's correct. Make sure that that's where we're at. Yes, we are now at follow-up in previous cases of old business. Do you want to come back in the room? Anybody? Step 4. Well, we just So, you want to bring up?
Sure. Chris, would you like to return to the room?
Sure.
Am I supposed to stay away still? Are you moving on to the other refusal?
Maybe it hasn't been brought up yet, but you wanted us. Just keep your ears open. We'll send you away if necessary. Teresa, do you have something in old business?
Yes, I'd like to bring up 1848 Gramercy.
Laura wants to recuse herself.
There was an appeal filed by West Adams Heritage Association, Jean Frost and Laura Myers. Even though Laura mentioned that her name, it was an accident that her name was on that. It is on that document. I believe we have that here, John, in the documents. So it's gonna, because there's an appeal, it's gonna go to the Planning and Land Use Committee. The chairperson is Marquise here in Boston, but Heather Hunt, our council member, is also on that committee. But I have.
It was in the packet. I'm sorry, where did I get that?
Yes, go to documents, go to the yellow folder, yes, and then. We filed it, yes, that's
our UNNC letter.
That's from 2021.
Yeah.
Then we filed the community impact statement with the CPC when that was a hearing, so you could talk.
And is the appeal in here or did you draw?
No, I emailed the appeal to you. Yeah, sorry. I did it as an attachment to the email. But the point I want to make is that I want to make 2 points. We know that there's a lot of community interest and many people commented when we when the developer brought it to our committee hearing, that this is not the appropriate development for our community, 7 stories. But we also have issues because Laura Myers was, a complaint was filed against her that she was a lobbyist, and even though she was cleared from the ethics committee on that, that is a concern. And the fact that she also is part of the appeal. And as co-chair of the committee, I feel there's conflict of interest there, and I don't want to put UNNC in a difficult position by supporting the appeal. So I'm just like to bring that to the attention of everyone, even though I know this is a really important element.
So the other, my question was, what I haven't seen the appeal, what is the basis of the appeal? Because it's from Waha. It's a CEQA based on the historic potential historic nature of the house. Yeah. Is that Waha's, or is there other layers to it?
There are probably other layers, John, and I did not. Did you read it by chance, Chris?
No, I was out of town when the deadline came, and I knew that Jean and Waha were working on it, and that basically a letter that Laura had drafted was sort of, it laid out a lot of the issues, was part of the framework to pull for the appeal.
So CEQA could be pretty broad, but and I don't know Waha. Okay.
I'm gonna try to pull it up right now, John. Just
so what so our letter has points to it, and about the density bonus and about incentives and aggressiveness. And the limit, it's only 3 affordable units, the impact on the street, and just basically all, and then the building safety issues. Not a lot of information was provided. And then every time that the developer took more time, asked for more time, they came back and it was bigger. So all these things were happening and just got, and then, so basis of our letter was not, I don't think we had a section about historic. We mentioned that it was a single family house. We were concerned about the people living in the house, that it was naturally occurring affordable housing, people with special needs who are living there. So I just want to know, and to your point, whether UNNC can use this letter to support the appeal, whether it supports the appeal or not. And then if it doesn't, does UNNC want to support the appeal based on basis of what the appeal is based on. Right, there's a lot of bases in there. If that makes sense.
I'm gonna join the meeting and then I'll be able to share. the-
Excellent. Thank you. Keep yourself to so you don't let go.
Yeah, if you could just allow me to share this screen.
So this is the appeal, correct?
Correct. The justification for the appeal.
So categorical exemption at CEQA. Grossly incompatible housing project.
Violates the setbacks and the character.
You want to go down to the reasons
Uh,
or not yet?
yeah, so it's basically it's saying it's incompatible on a number of levels. And I think part of it is historic and part of it is it's about character. It's not about necessarily the house, it's the character of the neighborhood that is the adverse environment.
Because it was a character.
So then this looks like they are debating whether it is exempt. I think there was a broad exemption. This is basically arguing that it's not exempt. And that's about this is building an argument about it's not exempt because it's a historic area.
So does this fall within our argument as a community?
I think our letter doesn't address this exactly. So I think if we felt like we wanted to support the appeal, it'd have to be a broad agreement with the environmental argument, because we didn't talk about that at all in our letter. It wasn't on our mind. We were talking about just this is not right. This is not right. So this is giving a legal argument to that. So what was your reason why we thought we might not shouldn't?
I'm just concerned about the appearance of the co-chair who was already called out by the developer as a lobbyist, even though she was cleared from that. And also the co-chair being on the appeal itself. And how that may appear to developer as an argument to the appeal. I don't know if it's relevant or not. I know that our community is very concerned about this development, so may override that.
Boy, anyone in the room who's smarter than I am have an opinion on that?
Well, I think.
She has an opinion, she's not smart.
The fact that the person who is also co-chair is also resides on that block. She has every right to give her voice to the appeal, and it just means she should certainly recuse herself from any role going forward. The fact that an allegation was brought and it was examined and proved false, shouldn't be a mark on her, because this developer was quite dismissive and was looking at every way to shout down everybody and anything. So I don't think that's, but I do think that it's certainly appropriate within her individual rights to give her voice to appeal on something that the block and the community she's definitely vested in, but she should have to recuse herself from being the face of any action towards that going forward from this committee or UNNC as a whole, just because, and I think we all have to wear different hats and sometimes multiple hats in our life. And as long as you're clear that at this point, I'm only wearing this hat and this is where I'm going to, I think that we can walk both, UNNC can walk its field and knowing that Laura's voice, even though it echoes that of many, many people in the community, will be well heard to the appeal.
I agree. I don't think it should silence us, because Laura has been religiously recusing herself from these meetings. She's out now. I've been in every single one, and she has always recused. She's never been in one. So I think that we shouldn't be silenced. I think that the intent, the overarching themes of our original letter, even though it doesn't talk to environmental arguments, that issues of incompatibility with neighborhood character and all those concerns, or the intent is similar. So I think that we can maybe summarize our original letter, fashion it without changing it too drastically into a support for the appeal. And I don't know how successful it will be. I don't know, but I think we can say exactly that. UNNC supports the intent of this appeal, that this project is incompatible with the character of the neighborhood. We can go through and maybe make a list and get the points out that we can respond to. I don't want to get involved in the CEQA and codes and all that stuff. I think that's beyond our scope. I think it is. I think we're boots on the ground about neighborhood compatibility. So I think we can support that with everything we've talked about.
And it's certainly consistent with the overwhelming output of our community about, so I think we can do that, don't you think?
And I think we can also make a preamble that states, no, Laura Myers has been recused from this argument, some statement. Just state that so there's no question mark hovering over it and who it's from.
I think that's a good point, John.
So I'm going to make a motion that, and I wrote that last letter, so I know it's in it. God, I can't believe I'm volunteering.
I'm waiting for this.
Promise myself never to start saying no, but I'm the logical person to do this. That UNNC write a letter and support the appeal of the project 1848 Gramercy on the grounds that it is consistent with our past concerns and findings and statements, and to alter that letter to include a statement about Laura being recused, and to edit the letter, not to change its content or intent, but to adjust it to be more directly supportive in its verbiage to what the appeal is.
And you're making a motion to do that?
Yeah, I am.
I second John's motion for John to do that.
It's on YouTube, John.
So
I'll send you the link.
Okay, good. I just wanted to take notes for myself. Adjust letter to fit appeal. No change of intent. And to Laura absence. Okay. Any more discussion? Any other thoughts?
Well, I just think it's good due diligence that we have the conversations that we have, and we have them in a timely fashion, and we so I want to thank all of us for, taking a second look and figuring out the way forward.
I think it's our obligation to respond to the appeal, because if we're silent, it's like
We
we're
need to
trapped.
vote on this.
We do.
Here's the discussion.
No more discussion. Okay, so we're ready to vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand, virtually or otherwise. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're gonna pass with or without you, Donna. There you go. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4.
4 here,
1,
3
3,
there.
6.
Right, okay, I will do that. It shouldn't take me long. It would. And I will bring that to I'll send it to Greg to the agenda and get that on the governing board meeting for one. Anyone other old business, anything else that we've talked about in the past? Anyone else wants to-
Laura, you can return.
Laura, do you want to return?
Oh, I had a comment. I was driving Adams today and I remember we had quite an issue about the house on the south side that had put up a big fence and then it had to come down, and they've done that. And they did a very nice job. It really actually adds to the property. But I noticed like 2 doors down.
Yes, it's in building and safety.
Okay.
We are.
Because I wanted
about
to make
that.
sure we were consistent and that
Yes.
everyone was getting the same
Treatment.
at the same performance bar, I did think that they had done a very nice job.
There must have been something in the air, because I noticed it for the first time about 4 days ago. And I said, oh, that's an improvement. That
Yeah.
fence.
Yeah.
We got that one.
Yeah, and I think everyone in the residence, I suspect they are enjoying it too, because it accomplished the idea of having a yard for children and stuff. But it doesn't take away the view and it enhances the overall.
And I think they moved their mailboxes inside.
Okay.
And that was another issue that they brought up.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that fence, that was also filed with DBS. And I'm not sure where that is, but we periodically.
So is it ever in our practice that we actually send a follow-up note of congratulations to a project well executed? If we just, I know people have to come to all the effort to come before us, even if we just had a little of one of our nice UNNC postcards that we could mail to acknowledge the completion and to congratulate them on what a successful project or something, just something that people don't feel like they're always having to carry the water and they never get acknowledged for.
So we'd have to bring it to the governing board.
Okay.
So if you, we can't make a motion on this.
I think it's an excellent idea.
It could be an old business,
Could be an
yeah.
old business.
I think that's a great idea. And what we're also trying to do is to build participation and at our meetings, and when we can reach out to them and say, hey, we noticed that
You
this,
get more bees with honey.
you made the changes, and many community members who complained are have recognize how beautiful it is now, and please join us at the next planning and zoning or governing board meeting.
And if you have other issues, or want inputs, we look forward to seeing you in other,
Yeah, so Donna,
The problem with the other fencing at, I think it's 4014, they've literally not, building and safety and housing have ping ponged that fence back and forth between them forever. And I had spoken to Laura about it. The other fence is still there. We have reported it. We have asked for them to follow up with them as well, because as Chris said, it's not fair that the other at the main, 4,000 was forced to do something about the fence, and the one right over, one house over never did anything. They've ping-ponged, and they played the COVID card. So we're still fighting that. We
Our
are,
council
Yeah,
district.
I was gonna say, Donna, do you think we should get Eric Aguiar on board with that?
that or the person that does land use from the council off. Yes, Hakeem, because they're really going to have to be called on that because housing says it's DBS, building and safety, and building and safety says it's housing. And they keep, you open it, they close it. You open it, they close it, each of them. So yeah, it's
Donna, do
a
you
big
know?
issue.
Yeah, do you know if it's still rentals or if it's another TIC project?
I think it's rentals, if I'm correct, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I thought it was a tenants in common project, in which case it would be building and safety, not housing.
Well,
But it's
maybe
rentals, it's housing.
So
I'll make an effort to
We are veering away
find
from
out.
past
Yeah.
projects. So if you want to bring this to this committee, please let me or Laura know.
But we'll bring it back.
Right, but let's do that
And we will bring,
research.
and we will bring a key back for one, to hearing to go back.
Because it's been reported at least 4 or 5 times.
Great, so we'll agenda, someone can champion sending me an agenda request.
Mhm.
What's the address, Donna? 44?
I think it's 4014 and 4016, if I'm correct. But it's
Or-
two, it's a duplex.
Great, okay. Note for agenda, I have to circle it with stars so I don't see it. Any other old, it makes me think that the whole postcard thing, there are lots of projects that have been successful.
Right.
That we might have just a standing thing that we do saying, we want to send just quick, less than 30 seconds at governing board. We want to send a note to this project to say just congratulations for it.
Right. And since I suggested it, I would be willing to take on the subtask of going back, working with the committee to figure out, and you know, you shouldn't be writing everything. I would take on the postcard task if it gets
So-
approved from the governing.
So
board.
I would say I think goes beyond this committee. So I think you just bring it right to the put it on the governing board agenda as an item, plan, I didn't even from planning and zoning, it's from Chris Carlson.
Well,
It is kind of.
it's from planning and zoning, but are we the only entity that wants to do
Definitely.
follow-ups? But
Yeah.
yeah.
So we can't approve something like that. at
Yeah.
this
No.
committee.
No, but we could bring it up and I'll
Well,
reach
as
out.
a concept,
As
before
concept.
Chris starts doing a lot of work to figure out how many places to, to do this, we should get a approval to move forward on a project.
And maybe the outreach committee would like.
I actually brought that up to the HPOC.
Are you saying being too bureaucratic?
Just a little bit, you know, so, but when you say outreach, that,
Yeah, no.
we can't put more burden on that committee.
But if they have- If they want
There's
to
no they.
share, there's no they, okay, well, if there's
Maybe
no,
in August, when we have a new
right.
chairperson.
I just didn't want to overlook that because it kind of does fall into the, you brought up the outreach aspect of engagement. And I just didn't want to overlook them. So they don't have to step up, but I would want to let them know the door is always open.
Okay, so no action on that, but something to pursue for either this meeting, let me know if the agenda or go straight to governing. Okay, any other old business? Someone.
Oh, yes,
Just,
yes, oil drilling. The Murphy Oil site. There's an appeal on that one as well. So in other words, the zoning administrator sort of approved, but gave 80 conditions. May not be making up that number. There's a lot of conditions. So the operator of the drill site appealed the zoning administrator's determination. There is a hearing on June 20th. But we talked about it a little last night at executive committee and pretty much UNNC's position. So we don't need to re-agendize it. The hearing will be at the South Los Angeles Area Planning Commission.
And do we send someone or ask someone to speak at that?
Well, I think Grace would like to be someone, but should it be?
Steve Peckman?
Right.
Or Chris?
I think it should be
Chris.
Steve. I think it should be designated Steve or Chris who could do it. These are now in person.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
And so even if Grace would like to, I think it should.
If Steve,
Yeah, because we have a committee.
Correct. Well, we have a subcommittee with chairs.
Yeah, that's what I mean. We
Yeah.
have a-
We don't have to vote on that, just show up.
No, we need to make it. clear that it will be, that the designee will be either Chris or Steve.
Okay, and I'll reach out to Steve to see if he's available.
Right, because he's at work.
The chairs of, co-chairs of the.
Well, subcommittee.
Yeah, will be speaking of that.
Yeah.
UNNC.
Do you-
So
is it
anybody else
daytime
can
meeting?
speak.
But they'll be
It'll be
speaking
like
at the-
4:30 in the afternoon.
That's gonna be hard for Steve, but I'll reach out to him
Well,
tonight and just see if
it's
he.
certainly better than 10 in the
Yeah,
morning.
I'll see if he can get that calendar and see.
Yeah.
Do we have to do any action?
No.
Okay.
No, because we have within our, I mean, you, John, can designate whoever you want to speak on your behalf. You're the speaker on UNNC's behalf, or I am, depending, for land use. So in this case, it's pretty obvious. The designee would really be, we
Two-
just need to tell Chris.
two things, I am out June 7th, which is our next P and Z.
You're out?
I mean, it's just,
Oh, so even though that's when Dana was presenting?
I can try to be on Zoom.
Okay, no, but I mean, that's fine, but I
Can
mean,
you
it's
still
a-
host that? I mean,
Yeah, you do.
oh, you're not recused.
I don't
from that?
know.
No, this is,
I don't know why is that important that I'm at Dennis party?
because you made the arrangement with her to be here on this.
Oh, yes, I did.
You did.
I know that, but I know, I guess,
Someone should take it.
I guess my,
Remember the project.
I don't know what it is. All I know is that, all I know is that this land use consultant wants to be on the agenda. I have no idea what the project is.
Okay,
No, we
It's coming.
look, we did that first look, oh, right, because it was, we did the first look in March without her on Zoom. And what was it?
Anyway, so as long as Laura can be here,
Yeah.
I will try, but I'm gonna be in San Francisco at a conference, so that's.
Yeah, so John, because you missed the board meeting in April, what we voted, we changed our standing rules. So where we have co-chairs of committees, each is the alternative to the other so that we.
I
can't
guess I'm saying I need you to be the alternative.
That's,
No, what she's saying is that you can also host as co-chair,
Yes.
you can host the meeting from Zoom.
oh, I don't know that you can, but.
Well, no, you can't host it because it has to come through this,
Right.
yeah, but you can
Participate as.
participate
Got
as
it.
a.
Oh, got it.
Right, right. I mean, you could run the meeting,
Got
even,
it.
but I would have to be present,
Got it.
or you have to be present. Cause I can't be present, or Teresa or Don. You know, I mean, that, you know, for recreation and
Oh,
parks.
right.
And Dennis or Grace for public safety rather than both.
Okay, and then thank you, Teresa.
Yeah.
Works very well
Yeah.
for a first one.
yeah,
First, I had never been in this room with it.
You know, I feel so disappointed. We're probably all gonna vote not to, to remain virtual, but
It actually helped a lot. I thought it was very, very pleasant.
what do you think the votes
well, I think the state's gonna allow us an option
to be hybrid, to be hybrid?
Yeah.
Well, to be
To be
100% Zoom again,
virtual.
maybe.
Okay,
Yeah.
so would we decide whether we wanted to be 100% or virtual, I mean, or
The board
hybrid?
would decide what.
Yeah, the board would vote, but the
Okay.
board could vote whatever the board votes.
Okay, oh,
Right.
No, it's refreshing. I was dreading coming back. Like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. It's nice to be here.
Right, I mean, the governing board, it's a bigger,
yeah,
you know, but there's food.
and we have a nice space, really lovely.
Yeah,
space.
it's community.
Yeah. And it's an outreach event because we're engaging.
Yeah.
In with one of our community stakeholders by being in their building, right?
Okay, well, thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody online. I'll see you next time.
Real quick, question for Teresa. Did you ever send that package to me, Teresa? Did I miss it?
No, the link, I haven't sent it to you. I forgot, Michael.
Okay, that's
do it
fine.
Tomorrow.
Oh, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure I didn't spam it or something.
No,
Okay.
I'll tell you when I send it. How about that?
That's fine. Thank you.